I'm Kyle, Director of Social at Ava Labs. Really excited to have everyone here. But I want to introduce our special guest today, Michael O'Rourke from POKT CEO. Michael, you want to give a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, happy to. Uh, like you said, Kyle, my name is Michael O'Rourke. A little bit of background on myself. I was born in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, raised in Tampa Bay, Florida, and got into Bitcoin in 2013 when I read an article about it on Wired. Fell in love with the space. Self-taught developer, was an iOS developer for about 3 years, and in about late 2016, I discovered Ethereum and smart contracts, and that was really the initial impetus for us to start thinking about Pocket. And fun fact about me: at one point in my life, I wanted to become a professional video game player, particularly with Dota, Defense of the Ancients, back in the Warcraft 3 days. So I've played a lot of Dota back in the day. So that's just a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you, and really happy to have a insightful member of the community who's been around in the space for a few years now to join us and talk through some of the latest updates. But I also wanted to bring in Gabriel, who's one of the senior engineers at Ava Labs, helping to build the platform and work on Avalanche. So, Gabriel, you want to give a quick intro to yourself as well?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing great. Um, I am Gabriel Cardona. As Kyle mentioned, I'm one of the senior engineers at Ava Labs. Technically, my role is developer evangelist. So I help maintain Avalanche JS, which of course is our TypeScript JavaScript library, as well as Avash, which is our local test network, similar to Ganache, if you're familiar with Ganache in the Ethereum ecosystem. I also run our developer services team, so a lot of partner integration and then helping on-ramp different people through Discord and Slack and Telegram and social channels. I've been into crypto. I got my first Bitcoin in 2011, and I've had a love affair with cryptocurrency since then. I do believe that the blockchain has the potential to be as meaningful as the web, and I believe that we're uniquely positioned through all of human history to take an idea and have a radical impact on the human condition. So it's really an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, we're really glad to have you as well. So, really excited about the conversation today, particularly around Pocket and what you and your team are doing. So, Michael, if you want to give us kind of a quick origin story, taking a step back, step out a little bit, how did Pocket get started, and what are some, the key offerings that it's bringing to the Avalanche ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. And with Pocket, we started. My co-founders and I were four people, and we started playing around with Ethereum back in like 2016, sometime after the DAO hack, and used an infrastructure service that I'm sure everyone is familiar with, called Infura. And as 2017 rolled along with all the ICOs and amazing dApps like Ether Delta and CryptoKitties, basically kind of the first of their kind, we really saw the importance of Infura for the Ethereum ecosystem, and we saw also the reliance that Ethereum had at the time on one single infrastructure provider, and that kind of is what sparked the idea for Pocket. And part of the core thesis of why we think it's important is because we think there's going to be thousands of blockchains governing our lives in the future, and all of them need this kind of RPC or full node service, if you will, at scale. And that's really kind of how we started thinking about it. We really did everything we could to not build our own blockchain. What I mean by that is, if you go back to 2017 in our GitHub repo, you'll see my first commit of the Pocket smart contracts on Ethereum. And over time, we really saw we kind of evolved from trying to use state channels to back when Plasma research was being heavily done, and eventually we opted to build our own blockchain as Pocket Network, and ended up launching it almost 14 months ago at this point. And to answer your other question, you can think of Pocket as a middleware protocol. It sits in between an application developer building on something like Avalanche and the data or the full nodes that they're trying to connect to. And the real big advantages of Pocket and what really kind of differentiates the protocol are a couple things. One, it's massively cheaper. And when I say massive, I mean by several magnitudes cheaper. This is because if I'm a centralized infrastructure provider to, for example, guarantee uptime, I have to have several backup sets of infrastructure, including my kind of primary set of infrastructure. So when I say infrastructure, I mean running full nodes with an API, so developers can quickly and easily build applications. Really, because Pocket is natively redundant with over 5,000 nodes in the network today. That's already there and completely removes the need for one single company to kind of take that burden of cost. And additionally, because Pocket actually incentivizes people to run infrastructure either in their homes or in data centers as opposed to on the cloud due to the costs, we really remove this kind of key central piece of failure, which is also incredibly expensive. So instead of having a central company kind of coordinate infrastructure, we have this trustless protocol coordinating infrastructure on a global scale, which is really exciting. And that's kind of really where Pocket sits in this ecosystem today.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you, why is decentralization of a full node infrastructure important, and exactly what does it mean for DeFi? Before you answer that, actually, I wanted to ask a real brief question, maybe get some insight. I noticed you said you are self-taught. I myself am self-taught as well. And so I always try and inspire people who perhaps don't have academic credentials that there is still a huge amount of opportunity in the blockchain and the crypto space. So before you touch on why decentralization of the full node infrastructure is important, do you think you could very briefly kind of just talk about some resources that you leveraged and whether or not you think it's practical for other people to pursue a path into the crypto industry without academic credentials?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk about that. Yeah, so I actually studied international studies in college. So at one point I wanted to become a diplomat, and what had happened was I had discovered this programming language called Swift, which was the new programming language that Apple had released back in like 2014. And for the first time, I felt that I had a language that I could understand. I had previously tried to code probably 5 or 6 times before that. None of it had ever stuck. But due to the sophistication of the tools and kind of for me personally, the things that I wanted to build, that kind of gave me the motivation to kind of get through that those initial walls that one gets through the learning process of learning to code. So really, because of Swift and kind of Xcode and these other tools that Apple had provided, I learned the Apple API and really started to learn and understand what a full application requires, right, from the back end to the front end and so on and so forth. So took me about a year. You talked about resources. I mean, honestly, it's been a while, but I remember using Treehouse, YouTube, really just anything I could get my hands on. There's so much free content out there today. I think anyone with an internet connection and a computer would very easily be able to learn, not very easily, but would be able to have the resources to learn to code more than anything. And if I had to say one thing that's important, it's really just persistence and keeping yourself motivated through that time. Usually I find that having something that you want to build is the easiest way to learn because you'll have the motivation to really dig deep into something.
Got it. Thank you. Yes, I'll steer us back on track. Thank you for the sidetrack. I just wanted to echo what he's saying. There is a wealth of free and open source information out there available on the web. Really, the barrier to entry is just how motivated you are, and it helps, as he mentioned, if you just kind of have a little to-do app or something that you want to prototype that gives you something to sort of take the stuff you're learning on the web and apply it in a practical way. And there's just a huge amount of opportunity across the board, not just in engineering, but product management, design, everything in the crypto space. So I just want to encourage everybody out there, if you do not have the academic or professional credentials, don't let that stop you from pursuing your dream of entering into the crypto industry. Okay, so back on track. Why is decentralization of the full node infrastructure important, and what does that mean for DeFi?
Yeah, I think this has become more critically important, especially over the last year or two, particularly given the regulatory landscape that we're seeing, at least here in the US. We've got, I was inspired by these, truly trustless and decentralized protocols from Bitcoin to Ethereum and Avalanche and just all these, incredible kind of base layer foundational protocols, right? And if anyone who's familiar with running servers and or ISPs for the internet back in the 90s, they're probably familiar with takedown requests, at least in the U.S. From Department of Justice or maybe queries from the FBI and CIA, and in many cases, I think many people didn't really have a choice to comply with these sorts of things. And as we see these protocols mature, really gain in value and frankly in power, I think it's going to become increasingly important for us to have a fully trustless stack. So what I mean by that is, while the base layers might be really trustless and decentralized, it doesn't mean that there can't be bottlenecks created above the stack. So what I mean by that is, for example, running the infrastructure or HTTPS, or I'm sorry, or DNS or storage or any one of these kind of foundational infrastructure stacks or tools. If these aren't also decentralized, they are also increasingly susceptible to coercion or capture, either regulatory or by companies or by whoever it is. And frankly, one of my experiences as an iOS developer uh, was really getting rug pulled by the Twitter and Facebook APIs. So being able to have, and what I mean by that is, overnight they change something with the API, with their algorithms or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden, we're in a rush to change our code and change the actual application itself to be able to kind of achieve our goals that we were trying to do with whichever application I was working on, right? And having these protocols that are not owned by central companies, but frankly owned by its users, really provides a grounding that I think is critically important for a future that's much more fair and equitable across the world, in my opinion. So, and how that relates to DeFi, right? While Uniswap is, for example, built on Ethereum, and that smart contract is living on Ethereum, and anyone can interact with it. The main Uniswap UI is hosted by the Uniswap team, right? And thankfully, for example, there's probably hundreds or thousands of different ways to interact with that at this point. But that's not always the case with other applications or other smart contracts on blockchains like Ethereum and Avalanche. So to really have a true trustless stack that has no real center person or group of people that can be targeted, I think is critically important to build this kind of vision of the internet that people in the early 90s got really excited about, which is a big reason why I think all of us are here today.
Got it. Yeah, great answer. And do you see this decentralization of infrastructure? Do you see this as a trend that is ultimately going to sort of escape the confines and the box of the crypto industry and perhaps enter other industries? If so, what are the barriers to entry for that happening? If not, why do you not see that? And then, sort of, what is the sweet spot between decentralization and centralization with regards to infrastructure?
Yeah, I think there'll always be a range, right? That's not to say that the whole world needs to be, everything that we use needs to be decentralized, right? But I do think that choice needs to be there, right? The right to exit and the right to be able to use something that has almost the same or just the same performance or utility as a centralized kind of company, if you will, is critically important. We're starting to see the maturation of protocols like POKT, the Graph, Filecoin, Arweave, HNS, ENS, and they're still pretty early, but we're starting to see real applications built on these things. So that really is an incredible signal, in my opinion, of the maturation of these platforms, and I still think we have a ways to go. So, for example, if I'm, Microsoft, and there's some sensitive information, right? I might use a mix of, information or smart contracts, say on Avalanche or whatever it might be, plus maybe some, private consortium chain mixed up with it, right? So I generally think there will be there'll always be a mix. I don't think it's black and white. I think we'll always have the kind of spectrum that really kind of, if anything, reflects kind of the human condition in many ways. So that's kind of how I view it.
Got it. Sorry, looking for my notes here. So, what does it mean to turn your infrastructure into an asset, and how does crypto economic models change and disrupt the software as a service industry?
Yeah, so this is something that I don't think we're thinking about enough as kind of in Web3 just generally, because Pocket is decentralized, but in the end, what developers really want is just reliable infrastructure that is ideally cheaper, more private, and these sorts of things. And we've managed to be able to build Pocket in such a way that through more people using it, and through these benefits of it being significantly cheaper and more private, it becomes more decentralized. And that's kind of the beauty of kind of using a kind of a Web3 crypto economic model with a protocol instead of a traditional SaaS business. And in Pocket's case, what I mean by that is, we have our main token, POKT, POKT, and instead of developers paying a monthly SaaS fee, they actually buy and stake POKT, the cryptocurrency itself. And what's really interesting about this is that token doesn't get burned for staking it. And by staking it within our own protocol, instead of paying this monthly sunk cost, which, say I'm paying $200 a month for some infrastructure for whichever service provider, in Pocket, I might pay $2,000 once by staking the native asset itself. And what that means is the more I use the service, the closer my cost basis reaches zero, as something where previously it would have been a monthly sunk cost. And that's purely through using these kind of crypto economic models where, for example, both developers and nodes need to stake Pocket to participate in the system for very different reasons. And using kind of a holistic view of this, early on, the way that we're bootstrapping the protocol is that it's resulting in more Pocket being taken out of circulation than what's being minted or created at any one point in time, which creates this nice kind of virtuous cycle, right? So we're kind of using these native crypto economic models to be able to really bootstrap and supercharge a protocol. And frankly, I think our own model could be probably used in many different kinds of verticals. But when it means turning it into an asset, it's the developer owns the Pocket, right? And they own the right of access to the infrastructure of the network, which is, in my opinion, a change in paradigm and an incredibly powerful concept.
Yeah, so can we sort of zoom out a little bit, and maybe for people who are just don't have a good intuition around exactly what Pocket is, can you explain it to me, like what is Pocket, and then sort of who are some of the different stakeholders, I should say, in the Pocket user experience? So, if I'm a developer or if I'm a validator, what does my actual workflow and user experience look like? So part one of the question, sort of just explain it to me like I'm 5. What exactly is Pocket? Help me develop an intuition around it. And then number 2, who are the different players in the ecosystem and what do their actual workflows look like?
All right, I'll try to explain this like you're 5. If you've ever played Minecraft, when you get plopped in the world there, you have to go and build a place to survive before it turns night. Pocket is kind of those bricks that allow you to be able to survive and to allow yourself to build, a large community or city inside Minecraft. What I mean by that is we have these open systems with open data, and maybe you're a little older now, maybe 8 or 10 years old. Really, what Pocket does is incentivize people to run full nodes for any blockchain. In the end, if I build an application that that's serving 1 million users a day, someone needs to be able to provide infrastructure at scale for my users. 99% of requests that we see through the network today are balances, maybe smart contract information, account information, this sort of thing. So they're really just people wanting information from the blockchain, and someone needs to be there to be able to provide that, and that's really what POKT does. Talking about the other portion of your question, as a developer who's building on, say, Avalanche, there's two ways in which you can access POKT. The first one being through our portal. If you go to portal.pokt.network, you'll find that in about 3 or 4 clicks, you'll be able to get an endpoint and be able to immediately start building in literally minutes, which is really exciting. So the process of onboarding a developer is pretty simple, to be honest, and any developer who's built even a traditional application in Web 2 would be familiar with that flow. And all they need to do is put an endpoint and begin sending their requests through HTTPS in that format. The other way in which developers can connect with POKT is actually use our own SDK. You can think of POKT as something that just wraps an RPC request or any request. So it's maybe get balance, for example, to get the balance of a smart contract or an account. It just wraps that so that it can be routed to the right node in the right network specifically. And on the supply side of the network, so the nodes, really anyone with minimal DevOps skills, if you can make your way around the terminal, can run a POKT node. It's actually quite simple on that front. The tooling has improved to the point to where we've got several products that just make it really easy for people to sync up a POKT node. And really to connect to other blockchains, it's about 2 lines of config on your POKT validator, effectively, to actually connect, say, my POKT node validator to an Avalanche full node. And to be clear, you don't have to be an Avalanche validator to participate in POKT. You just need to be able to sync a full node for whichever blockchain that you want to support.
Okay, awesome. Great. Yeah, go for it, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that down for us. I was glad that Gabriel was kind of able to jump in and drive some of the conversation around the tech and what you and the team are building. So that's really exciting, and I think it's a really important development for this whole ecosystem. And I kind of wanted to ask a little bit more about your involvement with integrating with Avalanche and how that kind of came about, what you're excited about in terms of this partnership, and why you think that having POKT available to the Avalanche developer ecosystem is important for the growth of this platform.
Yeah, we're extremely excited to be working with you guys. I believe it's been since March since we've been kind of planning this. We support all of the chains, so that's P chain, X chain, and the C chain. And really, we expect to become one of the core infrastructure providers for the Avalanche ecosystem. I think as a part of the evolution of kind of this Web3 space, I think protocols like Avalanche are frankly no-brainer, and it's been clear that you guys have been executing at an incredible level, and it's clear the community that you guys have. And I think one of the things that are important to me is following the developers in the space. That started with Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and I think it's been clear that that's where things are going in the Avalanche ecosystem. So we expect to really be one of the core infrastructure providers, whether it's developers building their own dApps, working on cross-chain things and this sort of thing. POKT really expects to be right there on the ground level. As you guys scale, we expect to be able to scale with you specifically. So.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and I think the Avalanche ecosystem definitely needs this infrastructure in a decentralized manner, and I think what you and the team are building is going to be really important for the growth, especially as we have the Avalanche Rush program starting up soon, and we have a lot of these blue chip dApps coming up over to deploy on Avalanche, and then it becomes really important as the traffic picks up and increases, that we have that infrastructure in place for all of our partners and developers. So
Yeah,
we got another. Oh, go ahead.
if I could just kind of show the excitement that the node runners on Pocket have had for Avalanche. We had about 300 nodes supporting Avalanche a couple weeks ago, and today that number is over 4,200 out of 5,700 nodes in Pocket Network. So it seems like our node runners are also very excited and bullish on the growth of Avalanche, which is pretty cool to see.
Wow, can you repeat that? Did you say 47 out of 5,200 are running Avalanche?
Yeah, 42 out of 5,700 Pocket validators are supporting Avalanche today per the Block Explorer, and that was that number was 300 a couple weeks ago to my understanding. So clearly, the node runners are excited about the growth of Avalanche as well.
Yeah, that's an amazing stat there, and looking to other ways where you can kind of see where the growth of the ecosystem is coming from. That's definitely one way to see, following the developers and how these node operators are validating the system. So that's really awesome to see. What are some other things that you're excited about, kind of in the DeFi space, and other ways that kind of this whole ecosystem is growing and evolving? Obviously, we all know that the pace of innovation and growth is on another level right now, and so we just wanted to see what else you're kind of excited about, not just with infrastructure, but other ways that you see the DeFi space and even the Avalanche ecosystem as a whole growing.
Yeah, more broadly, I'm really interested in this trend of kind of multi-chain applications and versus kind of application-specific blockchains gaining maturity, right? So for example, Pocket is an application-specific blockchain, whereas you have something like SushiSwap that's living on several blockchains at this point, right? And for me, what's really interesting is that kind of intersection of the kind of decisions that these kind of DeFi or let's say NFT platforms, the kind of decisions that these guys make, or these DAOs and so on and so forth. And whether, for example, seeing Compound create their own blockchain versus SushiSwap, deploy their smart contracts on multiple blockchains versus, kind of the expansion and maturation of these layer twos, right? And for me, it's interesting seeing how it might be, a race of kind of solidifying this kind of block space versus having a little bit more granularity by building your own blockchain. So that's been, for me, super interesting to see. I think we're starting to see, at least today, due to the maturation and quickness of tooling with Avalanche, and especially the EVM has made this a lot easier as kind of a standard to make it much easier and more seamless to be able to deploy on multiple blockchains. So that's been super fascinating for me to see, because, from my perspective, a big reason why, we, built Pocket as its own blockchain was, we didn't want to be subject to the kind of cost of coordination on a layer one, right? It's already expensive enough to coordinate infrastructure on a global level, and to be subject to, the cost of coordination across, a proof of work or proof of stake chain on top of that was, a decision for us, right? And back then, there wasn't as many options as there are today, and it's been really, fascinating for me to see kind of this space evolve.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting, because it kind of answered the next question we have, which was the idea of developing Pocket as a separate blockchain versus an application, right? And you kind of just touched on it briefly there, where the cost, being able to kind of something else you kind of touched on too, is that something we've been talking about a lot is this multi-chain future, right? And the idea that all of these blockchains are going to be servicing, global audiences and need this infrastructure. That I think that's why it's important that this is kind of its own standalone thing. And yeah, I think that's kind of a good direction that you and the team went. Cool. Well, we are going to kind of do one more kind of fun, quick question here. Just anything else that you wanted to let us know about, the next steps for Pocket. What's on the roadmap in the next couple months, over the next year? Would love to kind of hear more about developments you have coming up, how people can, get involved, join your community. What are some things that you're really excited about just for your own project?
Yeah, I think the number one thing on our mind is development of Pocket 1.0. That's been something that we've been deeply thinking about for the last 6 months or so. And, this is still a ways away, but, for us, this is an opportunity to kind of rethink the design of Pocket from the ground up, and allow us to really provide some services that the protocol can't support today, for example, like WebSockets and these sorts of things, and a couple other kind of edge cases. But for us, we're really excited about Pocket 1.0. We're really excited to be able to support blockchains like Avalanche. What's interesting about Pocket is that you can kind of think of it as kind of like a Uniswap for infrastructure, where it's trustless to add in a new chain. So for us to be able to see, if you guys in the crowd are running your own nodes for any chain that's not supported by Pocket, please reach out to us, because it's something we're more than happy to work with you on. That doesn't necessarily have to come from us. So really for us, it's really focusing on supporting developer ecosystems like yourselves, sponsoring hackathons, and really being there, and really just improving the developer experience for people who are really building in the space.
Yeah, I know Gabriel will love that too, because I think you're both really focused on that developer experience and evangelizing the different ways that both Avalanche and Pocket can help build this future together. So that's really exciting. I think we're gonna take a switch over to take some questions from the audience, and any questions they might have for you and Gabriel about Pocket. We have a couple of people here requested to jump in, so I'll let people in one by one to ask a question. Just come on, ask a question for Michael here, and see what we can find out about Pocket.
I have a quick question while we're on ramping some.
Oh, yeah.
So, is your team growing, and how should people reach out to you? Are there any accounts you want to plug, any Twitter accounts or handles? Or if somebody was interested in joining your team or entering your ecosystem, what would their next step be?
Yeah, we are growing. We are hiring across the board, from engineering to marketing to marketplace. So that's business development, node support, and these sorts of things. I'd say our Discord and our Twitter are the number one places. Twitter being POKT network, and you'll find all the links needed there. We are definitely growing. We're about 25 people today, and probably expect to double that in the next 12 months or so.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah, really exciting.
Fully remote.
It's always good to see that.
Fully remote too. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We'll be happy to speak with you.
Amazing, awesome. All right, cool. Let's grab a couple questions. We'll do a few from the audience here. Hold on one second. Let me let some of these people in that requested. All right. Same old. Let's see if this goes through. All right, we got a question from Same Old G. Go for it. Looks like we can't hear your audio. All right, Same Old G, you there? All right, let's move on to the next one here. Let's try this one. Yo-Yo is rigged 13. Can you jump in there and ask your question?
Hey, yeah. Thanks for having me on. I have a question about the Avalanche Rush program. My understanding is that starts in about a week. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of how you guys see your incentive program and how that lines up with kind of what Phantom's doing, what some of these other chains kind of are doing, and how you guys feel your incentive program does a better job or does a great job of incentivizing developers and protocols and projects to come move over and start building on Avalanche?
Yeah, I'll touch on that real quick, and then what we'll do is we'll get back to some questions for Michael here from Pocket. But yeah, the Avalanche Rush program is coming up soon. There's some work being done by the development teams and the different applications that we're partnering with to get everything ready to go to launch. So it's going to happen soon here. There's no exact dates set yet, but it's going to be coming here soon, and we'll be making all of the big announcements across our different social channels. We're really excited about this incentive program. We think it's really great to both bring in kind of blue chip applications that were built on other chains to come have their application live on Avalanche, but also supporting our native applications that have been a partner with us for a long time to offer incentives to users to use both. And we think that once users are able to bridge over to Avalanche using the new bridge that was built, we really feel that there's going to be a lot of activity that people can take with their investments and find different ways to get the most out of their DeFi strategies across all these different applications. And I think the incentives will both help bring some of those applications over, but I think it's going to really drive long-term usage and a growing ecosystem that's there to stay. So we're really excited about it. Obviously, there's details that we have to release once each of these go live. And so that'll be coming through our blog and social channels as well. But yeah, definitely stay tuned because there's a lot of big stuff coming up really soon. So thanks for the question. Let's go to Shane. Let's see, Shane, as you're connecting now, let us know if you can jump in if you have a question. Shane, you're on mute. Are you able to jump in and ask a question?
Hey, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, Shane from the Pocket team. And so one of the questions I really liked, what you guys asked was if, how Pocket and Avalanche, how are we going to kind of benefit each other's systems? And one of the cool aspects that I've been thinking a lot about in terms of Avalanche is where Pocket's almost, adding this new node layer where Avalanche nodes can start, generating rewards while not being a validator. And so we're excited to, so I just found that as a cool thing because Avalanche has got, a solid, over 1,000, I believe, validators right now, really solid validator group. But then for the everyday node runners, where do they go? Do they have an incentive to run Avalanche nodes? So we're excited to see kind of the a pickup in node runners wanting to run Avalanche nodes as kind of this, secondary model that's just benefiting Avalanche, applications that are, needing RPC. So anyways, that was just a cool point. I really love that question. And it's been awesome working with the team, and yeah, we're excited to see where this goes. So just wanted to pop say hi.
Is this Shane from Discord?
This is indeed.
Hey, man, nice to connect with you. I just want to give a shout out to your CEO while he's on the line. Shane has been kicking butt, man. It's been a pleasure to work with him. He's a great asset for your all's team.
Yeah, Shane's been great. And actually, just to add on to that, and thanks for that, Shane, I did see someone tweet out, I think CryptoPup, are there plans for Avalanche validators to earn Pocket rewards? How about people who run a node with no staked AVAX? So yeah, that's exactly what Shane was just talking about. You don't have to be an Avalanche validator, and you can just run a full node. You do have to stake Pocket to be able to do that. Right today, it's about 15,100 Pocket to be able to run a Pocket validator safely. And what's really cool about that is you can earn income for running a full node. And like I said before, Pocket fundamentally is a protocol that incentivizes people to run full nodes, which is quite important for censorship resistance across blockchains like Avalanche. So yeah, just wanted to add on to that, and thanks a lot, Shane.
Yeah, so validators could generate rewards from Pocket by having their validators also serving applications, so they could basically double dip. That's where the interesting thing with the validators is they're double dipping in two reward systems, while anyone else could actually just run a node and generate the Pocket rewards, and then hopefully build up to the Avalanche validator. That'd be really cool to see that happen. But regardless, we're just excited about the nodes and the way that our community has embraced Avalanche. As Michael was talking about the numbers, 4,000 plus validators on Pocket are now supporting Avalanche infrastructure. Really, really cool. So really glad to see that. It seems like they're very bullish on Avalanche being used in applications. So we're excited.
Awesome. That's great. And yeah, that's an interesting concept there with the double dipping for validators. So I think there's a lot for people to learn about this and figure out ways that they could provide their nodes for the infrastructure and be partners there. So we're very, very awesome information. Thank you for sharing all that. Thanks for joining us, Shane. So we're gonna wrap it up here. We got a final question. So Michael, what we wanted to kind of know is one thing that's kind of outside of DeFi, outside of Pocket, outside of infrastructure. Is there any other cool new projects you've seen lately, or any other cool new use cases for blockchain technology that maybe hasn't emerged yet, or is coming up soon that you're really looking out for, or keeping your eyes on? Anything cool and unique that you've seen in the space that that you're kind of just excited to see as a viewer instead of as kind of the builder?
Yeah, as someone who's not a musician but really loves music and has been to many different kinds of concerts, this idea of music into NFTs and allowing people to effectively kind of shorten. This has been kind of a trend that we've seen, right? From full albums to singles, to 30-second clips, to now probably 5-second clips effectively. I'm seeing a trend where people are starting to get really creative with taking effectively sound bites and allowing that to be a substrate or a foundation to create really interesting types of music in the future. I think we're super early in this right now. I know there's a project called Rara.social that is doing some really interesting stuff in that. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out. I wonder if it'll cause a kind of reverse where we end up creating longer music albums, so on and so forth, by shortening it so much. So for me, that is a trend that is still really early, but I'm just genuinely really excited about and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I come from the music space as well, and I'm really excited to see all the disruption that's going to happen with distribution and how artists build their careers and social tokens and all the ways that the industry is totally going to flip on its head. So I'm definitely watching out for that too, and it's awesome to have a fellow listener there.
Yeah, it's like loot for music. Imagine loot for music and what that might mean for the world.
Yeah,
is really exciting. So
it's really all of the ways that people produce and put their artistry out there are changing across different spectrums and different mediums. So music, I think, is one of the bigger ones that'll be impacted here in the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Michael, it's really a pleasure to have you on. Shane, thanks for joining as well. Gabriel, great to have you join us. And any final words, Michael, from you?
Yeah.
Where to follow you? Anything else that you'd like to say to our Avalanche community?
Yeah. Follow our Twitter account, POKT Network. That's our main point of communication. And also, if you're sitting here, you can claim a Pope badge that we are distributing for people who joins this. So take a look at our Twitter. I believe we've recently tweeted about it. So if you want to claim a Pope badge for being here, definitely hit us up. And if you're curious, if you want to dig deeper, please join our Discord. That's where most of our community is. If you're curious about running nodes, our Node Runner channel is incredibly active and really helpful. So even if you're non-technical and want to try to dive into it, our documentation is fantastic, and our community is just absolutely incredible. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, it was really a pleasure to have you as well, and really a pleasure to be building with you. Gabriel, any final thoughts on your end?
Just repeating what I said earlier, it really has been a pleasure working with Shane and the rest of the team. A lot of professionalism and a lot of very high-quality technical skills. I definitely see a very bright future for Pocket, and looking forward to more partnerships between our two organizations. Keep up the great work, you guys.
Thank you.
Yes, amazing. Yeah, it's really great to hear the partnership working out so well. So wanted to say thank you for joining us again. Thank you for all the listeners for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another Twitter Spaces. Stay tuned to our Twitter channel for more updates, more special guests, and more announcements coming up for the Rush program. So thank you all for listening and have a great rest of your day.